Before we begin, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. Now, settle in and enjoy the story. She waited at the altar, heart full of hope, but he never showed, left standing alone, surrounded by silence and shattered promises. Just when everything seemed lost, a man she had never met stepped forward. A billionaire with a quiet confidence, who said only one thing: "You're mine now." What happened next would rewrite her life forever. Emma was a woman whose heart held dreams bigger than the world around her. Known for her kindness and quiet strength, she had always believed in love, the kind that could conquer any obstacle, the kind that promised forever. Today was supposed to be the day those dreams came true. The air was thick with anticipation as guests arrived, their faces lit with joy and curiosity. The venue was nothing short of breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light across marble floors, and every detail spoke of elegance and grandeur. Flowers bloomed in abundance, their fragrance weaving through the warm spring air. Emma stood near the altar, radiant in a dress that seemed spun from light itself, her eyes shimmering with hope and promise. Lucas was the man she had chosen to share her life with. Born into wealth and privilege, his charm was effortless, an allure that drew people in and held their attention. Yet beneath the polished smile and polished exterior, there was an undercurrent of secrecy, a distance Emma hadn't fully understood until now. His family's legacy was one of power and influence, and he had always lived in the shadow of expectations. But Emma believed that love could soften even the hardest edges. Among the crowd was Ethan, a name whispered in the city's elite circles. A self-made billionaire, his reputation was as much about his sharp mind as his quiet confidence. Few knew much about him, but his presence commanded attention. He was a man used to control and success, someone who rarely ventured into situations that didn't interest him. Yet something about today, about Emma, stirred a rare moment of vulnerability within him. The scene was set, a collision of worlds where love and ambition intertwined, where the promise of forever hovered just out of reach. The luxury, the romance, the fragile hope, it all hung in the balance, waiting to unfold. From a young age, Emma had dreamed of a life filled with love and warmth, a family of her own where laughter echoed through the halls, and every day felt like a new beginning. Raised in a small town, her hopes were simple but sincere: to find someone who would see her for who she truly was and stand by her side through all of life's challenges. She carried those dreams with her into adulthood, believing firmly that love was meant to be both a refuge and a source of strength. Her story with Lucas had begun like a fairy tale. They met during a summer gala, his charm catching her off guard and her kindness softening his guarded heart. The early days were filled with moments of tenderness, quiet dinners, stolen glances, whispered promises. But as time went on, small cracks began to appear beneath the surface. Lucas, once so present and attentive, started drifting away. His absences became more frequent and his warmth gave way to cold distance. Emma tried to ignore the growing unease, convincing herself that love required patience and understanding. On this day, as the ceremony was about to begin, the tension in Emma's chest grew heavier with each passing minute. The guests sat poised, their eyes flickering between the entrance and the altar, waiting for the groom, who was nowhere to be seen. A soft murmur of confusion began to ripple through the crowd, but Emma stood rooted in place, heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. Then, the truth settled like a stone inside her. Lucas would not come. The room seemed to shrink around her as a wave of shock and disbelief washed over her. The tears started quietly, tracing cold paths down her cheeks as whispers filled the air. The dress she wore felt suddenly heavy, a fragile shell shielding a heart that was breaking in real time. Emma's world, once so full of promise, now felt hollow and exposed, every breath a reminder of a dream slipping through her fingers. The silence around her was deafening, a stark contrast to the joyous day that had been promised. From the edge of the room, Ethan watched Emma with a quiet intensity. His sharp eyes traced the lines of pain etched across her face, the way her hands trembled slightly as tears welled up in her eyes. dressed impeccably in a tailored suit that spoke of understated wealth. His presence was both commanding and composed, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding before him. There was something about her vulnerability that stirred something deep within him, a rare flicker of empathy in a world where power often bred isolation. Without hesitation, he moved through the crowd, his steps measured and deliberate. When he reached Emma, he extended his hand, not with grand gestures or empty words, but with a calm certainty that cut through the noise around them. "You're mine now," he said quietly, his voice low but resolute, carrying an unspoken promise of protection and a future yet unwritten. Emma's breath caught. The words echoed in her mind, clashing with the storm of confusion and heartbreak swirling inside her. She looked up at this stranger, this mysterious man who had stepped into the ruins of her day, and found herself caught between disbelief and a flicker of something unexpected. Hope, perhaps, or curiosity. Who was he to claim her like that? And why did his presence make the weight of her despair feel just a little lighter? In the back of her mind, fragments of Ethan's story began to surface. Snippets of a life marked by relentless ambition and profound loneliness. Behind the polished exterior and endless success was a man who rarely let anyone close, who had built walls around his heart as impenetrable as the skyscrapers bearing his name. Yet somehow, Emma had broken through that solitude, stirring something rare and fragile within him. As the tension between them grew, the room seemed to fade away. In that moment, two broken worlds brushed against each other, setting the stage for a connection neither could have anticipated. A bond that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, trust, and second chances. In the days that followed, Emma found herself drawn into a world she had only glimpsed from afar, a world of quiet elegance and refined beauty, where every detail spoke of wealth, but also of careful thought and meaning. Evenings were spent in rooms bathed in soft candlelight, where the clink of fine china accompanied conversations that stretched deep into the night. The scent of blooming jasmine from the private gardens mingled with the warmth of their shared laughter, creating moments that felt both surreal and tender. They walked beneath ancient trees whose leaves whispered secrets in the breeze, their steps unhurried as they talked about everything and nothing. The luxury surrounding them, the polished marble floors, the glint of crystal, the velvet textures, faded into the background as a more precious connection took hold. Emma, still fragile from the wounds left by Lucas's betrayal, grappled with a fear she hadn't expected, the fear of opening her heart again. Yet, with Ethan, there was a softness that invited trust, a quiet patience that spoke louder than promises. Beneath his confident exterior, Ethan revealed traces of his own scars, stories of loss and heartbreak carefully guarded from the world. His power and success had come at a price, isolating him in ways Emma could sense even without words. He was protective, not just of himself, but now fiercely of her. Their conversations often wandered to those hidden places where vulnerability replaced bravado, and the walls they both had built began to crumble. But even as their bond deepened, the shadows of the outside world crept in. Rumors whispered through the city's social circles, a tangled web of jealous ex-lovers and ruthless business rivals eager to exploit any sign of weakness. The glare of public scrutiny threatened to expose the fragile new beginning they were building. Still, amid the challenges, Emma and Ethan found moments of genuine warmth, quiet smiles, shared glances, and the kind of understanding that only comes when two people begin to heal together. Beneath the polished surface of Lucas's life, a darker truth was waiting to unravel. Whispers began to emerge, rumors of clandestine deals made in shadowed boardrooms, of alliances forged not out of loyalty but greed. It became clear that his absence at the altar was not simply a betrayal of love, but a desperate attempt to escape consequences far worse than heartbreak. His disappearance was tied to secrets that threatened to shatter not only Emma's world, but the fragile stability of those who thought they knew him. The man she had loved was entangled in a web of deception far more dangerous than she ever imagined. At the same time, Ethan's empire was facing its own storm. A ruthless competitor had set sights on his company, launching a hostile takeover that threatened to topple everything he had built. Worse still, a scandal was poised to surface, one that could not only destroy his business but also the carefully crafted reputation he guarded so fiercely. The pressure mounted on Ethan, forcing him into a battle that extended beyond boardrooms and contracts, into realms of trust and loyalty where the stakes were deeply personal. Caught in the middle of these colliding worlds, Emma found herself torn. To confront Lucas's past was to open wounds that still bled, but to stand beside Ethan was to face dangers that neither of them could predict. Every choice felt like walking a razor's edge, between truth and deception, safety and risk, love and loss. The fragile threads holding her new life together trembled under the weight of growing uncertainty. Then, just as the tension reached a breaking point, Emma's phone buzzed with a message that sent a chill through her veins. The words were simple but devastating. A threat to expose a secret so damaging that it could unravel everything she had fought to rebuild. In that moment, the calm before the storm shattered, leaving her with a decision that could change the course of all their lives forever. Emma's world unraveled in a torrent of raw emotion as she finally faced Lucas. The man who had once promised her forever now stood before her, his defenses crumbling under the weight of her questions and pain. Her voice trembled, but held strength as she demanded the truth. Why had he abandoned her at the altar? What dark secret had driven him away? Lucas's answers came hesitantly, fragments of confession that only deepened the ache inside her. The love she had believed in was tangled with lies and betrayal, leaving her heart shattered all over again. Beside her, Ethan's presence was steady, a quiet anchor amidst the storm. He reached for her hand, offering reassurance without words. Yet before she could fully lean on him, he was called away. An urgent crisis pulling him back into the ruthless world of business that neither of them could escape. His departure left Emma standing alone once more, the fragile hope she had begun to build slipping through her fingers like sand. Alone with her thoughts, Emma faced a dilemma that cut deeper than any heartbreak. Should she follow her heart, risking vulnerability again for a chance at love with Ethan? Or should she shield herself, guarding the wounds that still throbbed beneath the surface? The question hung heavy in the air, a silent battle between hope and fear. Her gaze fell to the letter lying unopened on the table, or perhaps the message glowing on her phone, its contents unknown but promising to change everything. As the seconds stretched, a voice whispered over the stillness. But what happened next changed everything. The room seemed to hold its breath, suspended in the fragile moment before the storm. Now, as Emma stands at a crossroads, we ask you, what would you do if you were in her shoes? Would you open your heart again, risking everything for a chance at love after such deep betrayal? Or would you guard your wounds, protecting yourself from the pain of another heartbreak? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're eager to hear your perspective. If you want to find out what happens next in Emma and Ethan's story, the challenges they'll face, the choices they must make, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a moment. Thank you for watching.